Autobots, roll out!
Hello and welcome to That's Just Prime, and today we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Classics Ultimate Battle Optimus Prime. And once again, I am in the minority because I love this toy. This is another one of those guys that was not very well received. Released in 2006, he originally retailed for about $20. As you can see, he's not exactly very big, and if you're wondering why, if you're not familiar with this guy and you're wondering why he originally retailed for $20, that's because he came in a 2-pack. He came, because it's Ultimate Battle, he came packed in with this Megatron right here, and then he also came with this DVD. The Ultimate Battle DVD, and I'm getting some light flare there. There you go. There's the DVD right there. And I hadn't watched this DVD in a very, very long time, and I just sat down and watched it right before I started filming this review, and all I have to say is that I'm ready to take a nap. It's just a clip show about, and it's got a bunch of clips from Cybertron and the cartoon Transformer Cybertron, Energon, and Armada, what is known as the Unicron trilogy. It's just a clip show with a bunch of clips from all three of those. And yeah, I just sat down and I watched this right before I filmed this, and I am ready for a nap. So if you don't have that DVD, you've never watched it, you're not missing much. Especially if you've seen the Unicron trilogy, you're not really missing much. But anyway, he came in a 2-pack Optimus here with the DVD and Megatron here, and Megatron's all right. He's a tank mode. He's kind of trying to evoke that Generation 2 Megatron where he transformed into a tank. So there he is right there. That's Megatron. And then we're getting our focus right back to Optimus Prime here. And Optimus Prime was evoking, or trying to evoke, that Generation 1 truck Optimus Prime. And it's not very good. It's not. Hero's okay. There are quite a few things that they could have done differently on this truck. Let's get back to the regular review here. Let's see. He was released in 2006, $20. Came in a DVD 2-pack. Here in truck mode, he's approximately 5.5 inches long, and he's about 2 inches tall right here at the top of the cab. 2.25 if you want to count the smokestacks here. Again, he rolls really nice, and he's detailed. He's got quite a bit of detail, but you know, you're probably seeing right now what everybody else complain about with this guy, and it's that, you know, it's not a very horrible truck mode. It just seems like they took some shortcuts with this guy that could have been easily fixed, and it just, you know, they could have done a couple of very, very, what I think could have been very simple fixes, and they could have done something better with it. Starting off with, right here at the top, you can see there's a visible head right there. I mean, it's right there. Yeah, head's right there. And here's what gets me about the head. You know, I've done Optimus Prime figures before that had a visible head, and I haven't complained about those quite as much as this one. The reason I take issue with this one here is I'm going to go ahead and pop the head up with this. And as you can see, there's a panel. There's a little spring-loaded panel that comes up when you bring the head up right there. And that you know, that's there to cover up, to help cover up when he's in robot mode. It kind of helps to cover up and not have a big giant gaping hole behind his head when he's in robot mode. And I can appreciate that. Here's the thing, though. If you already have a hinge and a flap built in for that, why not have the flap come up, so that way when you put the head down, if the flap is up, then it comes down and it covers up the head. And then you can open up the flap, take out the head, and then bring the flap back. I don't know. I think the hinge is already there. They were already thinking of something to do here to cover up this hole. I think they could have employed this hinge in a better way to help cover up the head. So that's just me. Again, I don't work at Hasbro. I don't know what happened behind the scenes with this one. Another issue that I think could have been an easy fix is you can see that very obviously here. See the waist and the thighs going into the legs here. These legs do not compress, and I don't think it would have been terribly difficult. There are how many thousands of Transformer figures, especially Optimus Prime figures, where the legs compress into the thighs will compress into the shins. I don't think that could have been a very difficult thing to do here. If these leg pieces here were to compress and slide up and maybe plug into the back of the truck here, basically cut this part out. Look at that. If you cut that part out and you just have the red going straight into the blue, I think that would have made for a much, much better truck mode. This would have looked a lot better if these legs just compressed up into the truck. So that's the second complaint that I had. The third complaint kind of sort of relates to the same thing with the legs. If the legs would slide and maybe plug, I mentioned where it maybe plug into here, because there's no plug with when he's in truck mode. The whole waist and the torso here and the legs, none of this plugs into anything else. So if you were to grab the truck from the back here and pick it up, yeah, that just happened. So that, it really breaks it up. You see that? It just really breaks up the truck. And then you have to fiddle with it and kind of pose him for truck mode, and it just doesn't work, If you're rolling him around, if you're rolling him forward, he's okay. But if you push him back, that happens. See what happens if you push him back? The cab pulls forward like that. So it really is a shame that nothing here plugs into anything else. And it looks like the waist piece here and this little notch on the back of Optimus Prime here, it looked like that was going to plug into it. And then they didn't put the slider in because the waist piece actually slides forward and backwards. But it does so for robot mode. So this doesn't actually slide up to plug into that. So that just breaks up the truck mode there, Some of the complaints that a lot of people have, if you look at the truck from the front, if you just looking at the cab here, the cab looks very obviously broken up. And this is an issue that a problem that a lot of people take issue with. I don't take issue with it all that much. Here's the thing: there's a gimmick that this figure has. It's a spinning gimmick. That's what this. If you're looking and wondering what this little lever back here is for, it's got this gimmick. When you get in robot mode, you push this lever in, and the whole robot from this point up, from these window pieces, basically the top part of the torso, the arms, and the head, it's going to rotate, so you can do like this punching gimmick thing with it. And so what happens is, because it's got that rotation gimmick and it's got the spring and the gear system in here and all of that, the rest of the truck here and here looks broken up. A lot of people take issue with that, and I can understand. I don't mind it all that much. At least this part here, I don't think it's that terrible. The wheel wells do stick out a little further than they should, and that kind of breaks it up a little bit. I don't mind it horribly. It would be nice if they could bring them in, but they didn't, and that's not, that's one of those where I say, what are you going to do? I wouldn't really complain all that much about that. But I do take issue with the fact that, look, that just rotates crazy. The head is visible. It's a very broken up truck mode, and it's a shame that it just seems like they took some shortcuts that were really detrimental to the overall figure. And it's a shame when you see stuff like that happens, because I think with just the three changes that I mentioned alone, even if they didn't fix any of this, and even if it still had the rotation gimmick, just the three that I mentioned, the head plugging in and the head and the legs collapsing, just those three alone, look at that, this figure just popped off. That's it. That's all that. Let me show you this real quick. This is all that holds the two halves of the figure together, is this peg with the two nubs at the end of it, and it goes in with friction into these slots right here. It's just friction. It's just a friction peg. That is what holds the top and bottom of this figure together. And as you saw here, just fiddling with it, just playing with it. I'm not even being really rough with it. I'm just showing it on camera, and it wasn't enough to hold the figure together. I'm trying to straighten up the truck mode so that I can get one last good shot of it, and it's coming apart. So it's not a very good truck mode, I have to say. It saddens me to say, because I'm the guy that typically says I love all, and I do love all my primes, and I think this guy kind of redeems himself at least a little bit when we get into the truck, into the robot mode rather. The figure does redeem itself some. But I think, if, like I was saying before the waist popped off, the head, if they would have made a cover for the head, if they would have made the legs collapse, and somehow find a way to peg all of this together so that it didn't do that, those three things alone could have redeemed this entire truck. I mean, that they could have made for a very good toy with just those 3 changes, which are things that you see typically on every other Prime or every other Transformer that you see. So I just I can't get it into my head why they would take those shortcuts with this figure. Again, I don't work at Hasbro. I'm not behind doors. I don't know what happens. They took these shortcuts with this figure, and they're very, very, very detrimental to the overall figure, and it's a shame. But enough with the negatives. Like I said, the truck mode, I don't really display. It's not a good truck mode. I don't display it in truck mode. And when we get into the robot mode, I think the figure does redeem itself some. So let's get into the transformation, shall we? Right here, you saw on the back of the truck. I do like this. The weapon also transforms, and I like the fact that the weapon's got like the 2 little handles. You can rotate it around, and it's got the 2 little handles, so you can have somebody riding behind Optimus Prime, turning this guy around and shooting it. And I really kind of enjoy that. Go ahead and take the weapon out, and the weapon's just pegged in right there in this porthole on the back of the truck here, and that could maybe work for a trailer if there was a trailer with a hitch that far forward there. I don't know. Let's get to the. I know I sound very negative, and I'm not trying to, but it's just it's sad to say it's not a very good vehicle mode. Look, I mean, just look at it. It's not good, but let's get to the positive side of the figure. So. Getting into the weapon, once again, check that weapon out. I really enjoy the weapon, and the weapon does do some transformation. You can see that there's a hinge here and up here, so the whole thing just folds or stretches out. And there you go. There you have a rifle for Optimus Prime in robot mode, and I think it's really, really cool. I really love this round bit here on the weapon. It kind of looks like one of those drum magazines, like you see in old gangster movies, those old submachine guns that have those drum magazines on them. I really like that a lot. I really, really enjoy the weapon for this figure. So let's set that aside. Let's get into transformation. The transformation is kind of cool. There's a bit of transformation on here that I really do enjoy. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward Optimus Prime transformation. Go ahead and the side here, these are going to be the arms. So for now, I'm just going to pop them off to the side, up and over like this, just to kind of keep them out of the way. Take the entire thing right here at the bottom of the waist, the bottom of the grill here. You can see how that spins. So you're going to go ahead and take this whole thing and just spin it all the way around. And there's a bit of like an automorph here that I really enjoy. The waist is going to come down, and if you remember, I told you it was on a slider. It slides down in robot mode, and when it does, watch what these wheel wells do. It just kind of pushes them up, and then you slide. Right there, you see the slide. It's not a lot, but it slides back, and that locks in the waist into the robot mode. So it makes for the torso of the robot. I really enjoy the way that it does that. It just pushes those wheels up. Let's get a shot from the front. It's kind of like he's sitting down and he stands up, and those wheels just pop straight up, and then that way slides back to lock in place. I really enjoy that part of the transformation. I think it's so cool. I'm going to set him down and move the camera up a bit so we can get the whole thing in frame here. The legs are straightforward. You just separate those, and the tips here are going to be the feet, 1 and 2. You can bring the arms out at this point, just straighten them out. It's just typical, very G1-like arms here for Optimus. So just straighten those out. And then the fists are going to come out. The headlights come out of the fists there and there, just like that. And I do like that. I think that's a cool solution to the old peg the fist into the headlights, like the G1 figure did. And then, again, you saw the head earlier. The head's just right in here. You just pop this guy up and turn it around. And there is Optimus Prime, Ultimate Battle, Optimus Prime in robot mode. And again, like I was saying earlier, I think the robot mode really kind of redeems this figure, because I think that is a very cool-looking Optimus Prime. Here in robot mode, he's approximately 6 inches tall. As far as articulation goes, again, no ball joint on the head, but you can kind of make him look up because of the transformation, you know. But the head does go all the way around. As you saw for the transformation, the head was actually turned and popped down. So he can go all the way around. The shoulders are on a ball joint, so you can go in and out with them. You can go around. This guy can go all over the place. You can even pop his shoulders back a little bit. For whatever reason, if you want to do that. The elbows have a good 90 right here. They go all the way 90. And then no articulation on the fist, sadly, because it's on a hinge to go in and out. but it's got the peg hole there for the weapon. So, I don't think, at least it's not curling arm, so that's not bad. Oh, and there's a rotation right there at the top of the bicep. So that's pretty cool. He does have some rotation here at the top of the torso, and you hear it clicking right now. That's because of the gimmick, and I have the gimmick locked right now. That's why it's clicking, but it does have that rotation up there. And it does have the waist. This is another one of those things. It loses the waist articulation in robot mode. Once the waist comes back and slides in and locks into place, he loses the waist articulation, and that's crazy because here's a figure that had waist articulation in the truck mode. He actually had waist articulation that you couldn't get away from. You couldn't lock it in, and the top of the truck kept turning, and you couldn't get away from it in the truck mode. But then once you get into robot mode, it's locked and you lose it. So that seems kind of like it's working backwards, if you ask me. The hips here, they're on ball joints as well, so you can go in and out, you can go forward and backwards. These hips are going to go all over the place. And then you got rotation at the top of the hip right there. You've got a full 90 at the knee, and you've got a little bit of tilt with the feet because of the transformation. So, again, I'm going to say it again. This figure kind of redeems itself a little bit when it comes to robot mode. It's got very good articulation. And, it's a deluxe figure, so it's a little bit on the small side. But I think that is a really cool-looking Optimus Prime. As far as Optimus Prime, if it's going to harken back to the OG1 Optimus Prime, and in robot mode, this is a really cool-looking robot. I love the way this figure looks, and I love the articulation. So I think this figure redeems itself when it comes into the robot mode. That gimmick I was telling you about earlier, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring the one arm straight up like that, and then I'm going to kind of make this He-Man punching folded arm like that. So here's what happens with the gimmick. This lever is pulled completely out right now. That's how you lock the gimmick. If you push it in, that's going to release. You see, it immediately releases the top of the torso so you can spin this thing around. And the way the gimmick works is you just push on this, and it's going to make the top of the figure. It just makes the top of the figure spin. So if you had Megatron here, you could actually punch him. In fact, why don't we bring Megatron in right now? So here's Megatron, and we're just going to stand right there. I have actually never done this. This is the first time I try this. So I'm trying something new for the camera here. And let's start spinning Optimus here. I already pushed the legs forward. This isn't going to work. Let's see. So we start spinning Optimus, and there he goes. He actually backhanded Megatron. So there you go. The gimmick sort of kind of works. And again, if you want to lock that in place, because it will start doing this a lot on you when he's in robot mode. Again, you take the little lever here, pull that all the way back. It's going to click in place, and now he's locked in. So there you go. That's Optimus' gimmick, and we'll get Megatron out of here. And then let's bring the weapon in so we can show him off with his weapon. And again, there's the weapon. It's simple transformation. It just goes from that in truck mode to there for robot mode, and it does actually clip in. You see what I mean? They went through the trouble of clipping that in. Why did they take the shortcuts that they took for this guy in robot mode or truck mode? I don't know. But anyway, there's Optimus now with his weapon. I'll send him over here. And again, I really love this figure in robot mode. I think this guy completely redeems itself when you take it into the robot mode. That is a classic Optimus Prime. It looks good in robot mode. He's got a cool weapon. He's got great articulation. That is a really cool looking Optimus Prime. We'll bring Megatron in here real quick. I guess you can do a comparison here. There's the two figures that came with him in his 2-pack, and we'll put that guy DVD right there. There you go. There's Optimus Prime from the Classics Ultimate Battle 2-pack. And again, and real quick, in case you're wondering, for Megatron, it's kind of backwards. I think his vehicle mode is excellent, and then his robot mode would be pretty cool if they hadn't thrown in that gimmick. This arm does this whole spinning thing, and it's a mess. If they could make this figure exactly identical the way it is now, but give him two proper arms, this would be a perfect figure. And then Optimus, again, if they did leave the robot mode alone, but do the 3 fixes that I mentioned for the truck mode, it would be a perfect figure. So just don't do the shortcuts for this guy. But there it is. It's a pretty cool 2-pack. If you could get your hands of it, and you're a fan of Prime or a G2 Megatron, it's a cool pair of figures to have. You saw the problems with him in truck mode, but once again, if I said it once, I've said it a million times. I think this figure totally redeems itself when it comes to the robot mode, as you can see here. So I think that about covers Transformers Classics Ultimate Battle Optimus Prime, or for this purpose, I guess, the whole Ultimate Battle 2-pack. hey, stand up, Optimus. There you go. So anyway, please leave me a comment, give me some thumbs up, subscribe and share with your friends if you like what you see, and I'll talk to you next time on That's Just Prime.